Good morning, world. This is Steve Rao, the host of World Edition, on behalf of IBMTV International Broadcast Media Television. And today, on this show, as always, we bring you news from around the world and talk about sustainable innovations and the kinds of things that we can do as a world to get through this COVID pandemic. Today, my monologue is based on what India is going through COVID hell, as India today has 349,691 confirmed cases of COVID 19. Last Friday, there were over 4 million cases, and India's total is more than 16.9 million cases, with the average of 2,000 citizens of India dying every day from this dreadful, dreadful pandemic and the tremendous mutations that exist. How did India get here? Well, number one, there is concern that there's been a lot of events, including the inauguration of the Narendra Modi Cricket Stadium just a few days ago, where over 5 to 10,000 citizens were there of India. Many people not wearing masks, all kinds of festivals going on. And so the numbers were stabilizing in India, but they really skyrocketed after they loosened up and opened up their economy so suddenly, opened up India so suddenly, a nation of a billion people. This is affecting many people in North Carolina, where we live right now, with 45% of our population of Indian American heritage right here in North Carolina, in Morrisville, in Cary, in Charlotte, all around the country, all around the state of North Carolina. Fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers affected, dying, or sick. Crematoriums booked. People not knowing how they're going to travel to see their loved ones in such dire circumstances because of the travel restrictions. But there is help on the way. And this might be the first test of the Biden administration in terms of showing American leadership in the world, joining Britain and France to pledge immediate medical aid to India. The White House is basically saying, along with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, that they will be sending personal protective equipment, masks, and gears, and they will be providing the raw material for India to continue to develop their COVID 19 vaccine. This is also, they're working with BioE to expand manufacturing capability to India. So they're paying for an expansion of this manufacturing capability. BioE is the vaccine manufacturer in India. And a team of U.S. public health advisors from the Centers of Disease Control will be sent to assist Indian officials as they work to help the world with this pandemic. On today's show, as our panel comes in, we'll be talking about India. We'll be talking about what will be happening in the future as we deal with this pandemic. I'll close with this. The United States has a vested interest in helping produce and provide not only the relief, but excess vaccine supplies as we get to herd immunity in America. Because India is the world's largest democracy, it's important for their economy to survive and thrive. It's important for us to have a stable India in a very unstable South Asia region with China. And it's important also for us as allies of democracies to make sure that we rid the world of this pandemic. As global commerces and trade continue, having COVID infections in India is not good for any nation in the world. So we pray for India. We pray that the United States can continue to work with them, our ally, to help them get through what is being called COVID hell. On that note, I'm going to be welcoming our panel. We're waiting for them to arrive. No one has arrived yet. And I'm going to wait for a few minutes. And hopefully, folks will join. So, folks, we are waiting for a few minutes, and I'm gonna I'll be here for a few minutes. I don't know what's going on. I'll be right back. Just hold on. Well, folks, we're waiting for our panelists to arrive. Nobody is here yet, so we're gonna wait a few minutes. I'm gonna just be here on standby to take any questions. Don't really have any thing to share with you at this point, but just wanted to make sure that we are standing clear and doing what we can to make sure that we're going to be okay um, in India. And the other news today is that Joe Biden will be addressing the United States Congress. He's going to be talking about how we deal with this pandemic moving forward, and he will also be talking about his plan for funding childcare and tuition-free community college and raising capital gains taxes for millionaires. So he'll be talking about this on Wednesday. And the United States has surpassed 200 million in terms of COVID infections. So we are excited about that. Um, and uh, the Oscars was last night. A couple of surprises: Chadwick Boseman not winning the Oscar, and all kinds of things going on in terms of where we are going with the pandemic. And we're going to wait a few more minutes, and then I'm probably going to end the show today, and we'll be back tomorrow. I guess people got busy today. Want to thank you for joining IBM TV. You can feel free to subscribe to our networks and do what you can. And please make sure that you're doing what you can to be with us today. Thank you so much. Well, I put this on my Facebook, so I got a couple questions. Um, Big news in North Carolina. I want to share with everybody that Apple has announced its 3,000 jobs, its East Coast campus in in the RTP, and so the jobs are paying 180. See, $1 billion campus will build a new technology campus and create thousands of jobs. They awarded millions in tax incentives and adds up to more than 845 million over 39 years. Total incentives, including utilities, add up to more than 958 million. So this is a huge news for North Carolina, the ninth largest state in the union. So I want to congratulate everybody on that. Um, Great news. Great news. Hey, Nick. We're waiting for the other panelists to get here, but I just made my monologue about India, and the COVID hell that India's in right now with millions of infections, 4 million last Friday alone. And so the U.S. is sending aid to India and going to be providing raw materials for them to develop the vaccine, sending CDC personnel and staff, and very scary. I mean, my phone's been ringing off the hook with people's parents that are there dying. I've got family members there right now that are very sick, and the crematoriums are all booked, so people don't even know where to cremate the dead. So it's a very scary situation. So
Hmm.
hopefully we can. I guess they opened up too quick, and their numbers were stabilized, but now it's a scary time. So yeah.
I think it's worse than you think. Ankit is in the hospital right now. In
Oh
case you didn't know.
gosh.
Yeah, so he just got admitted to the hospital, but his family all got COVID-19 apparently. So
Yeah.
it's spread pretty bad. And the data I've read, it was in the Wall Street Journal, that 30% of the people in the New Delhi area are turning out positive for COVID-19.
Yeah.
Vaccination rate 1.5%, which is not a good vaccination rate. So, Steve, there's some serious issues in
Yeah, and I
COVID.
think it just shows you that the government's just been very inefficient and irresponsible, I think, in how they've managed this pandemic. And India is a very vast country, very dense in these urban areas. You have slums, a lot of poverty, people coming to the houses, servants working, and you don't know where they've been. And we pray for Ankit and his family,
Yeah,
and hopefully the aid the United States is providing is going to help. And if you're listening, you can go to BAPS Charities. That's a local charity, but they're a global charity. They're taking contributions for feet on the ground to help people in India. And we just pray for India. And on a positive note, big news in North Carolina, where Nick and I live. The governor just announced Apple is creating its new East Coast campus in RTP, hiring thousands of jobs, investing over the next 20 years, 187 million. This is big news for North Carolina, Nick. I mean, sort of like not since the big IBM came in, Big Blue, have we seen this kind of a massive announcement, and hopefully it'll be a spillover for other investments.
yeah, I actually did see that. And so the thing is, yeah, it looks like they're going to have a lot of new investment in the area. So what can I tell you? IBM's been here for a long time, and now it looks like Apple's going to come in. So that's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. Great news for Governor Cooper and the team. Shaquille, welcome to the show. Today, my monologue began with the COVID hell in India. Ankit is actually sick with COVID. He's just been hospitalized, but over 4 million cases last Friday, 362,000 deaths in India, 16 million cases. They're now the number one COVID infection region of the world, a nation in the world. And we're just really scared for India right now. I mean, this is a humanitarian crisis. And what is your take on what's going on in India right now with COVID? COVID hell is what they're calling it.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I actually I'm not really up to speed with what's going on in India, but terrible to hear that Ankit's got COVID. He's quite young, so hopefully the stats show that young people tend to handle this pretty well. But that's a tragedy. So my thoughts are with him and his family.
Yeah,
Maybe
and he's in the hospital right now as we speak.
yeah.
So he got admitted, which means that apparently it's more than asymptomatic. Because usually, if they're asymptomatic, they're not going to admit it. But if they have,
Mm.
symptoms, then they admit them to the hospital. So hopefully things work out, because that's hitting close to home at the IBMTV network to have people that get COVID-19. And India is a big hotbed. It was hit the Wall Street Journal today that the vaccine rate 1.5%. The people in New Delhi that once they're tested, 30% have COVID-19. So they have a huge problem on their hands right now over in India.
I think it's I think it's worth noting as well. I mean, I'm no expert on India. I know, ethnically I'm Indian, but I'm so many generations away from there. I don't know really anything about India. I don't speak any of their languages. I've never been to India, so in no way am I any expert there. But I know that just on the stats, on the numbers, it's very similar to what we've seen in Italy. We're seeing a lot of extended families living together. And also you see a lot of poverty in India. And with that combined with, high density living in some of those cities, it does have the potential to spread very, very quickly. We saw this in Italy where, because of the extended families, the kids are going to school, and people like President Trump and other people on the political right would often say, well, look, the kids have got a really low rate, and that they're not going to get hurt, so let the kids go back to school. Of course, in places like Italy, where the kids then come home and they pass it up to their parents and to their older generations and things like that, you can see some older people like grandparents starting to be affected. So I think that whatever response you have and whatever response a country has, it's going to be complicated. Society is complicated. It's not going to be a one size fits all approach. I think that different communities have to deal with it differently.
Yeah, well, it affects the IBM TV network because a lot of our programming is being put together in India, and we have 15 new programs, now maybe 17, that are supposed to hit the airwaves in May. It may be delayed until June or even July, depending on COVID-19, because ANKIT got hit with the COVID-19. So like I said, it hit home with the IBM TV network, because we distribute a lot through India, and we even have some shows with doctors and telemedicine that are all in pre-production that look like they're all going to get stalled until that gets resolved over there. So like I said,
Yes.
it hit home, even though we're 2 oceans away from New Delhi. Mark has joined us.
Mark, we're just talking about COVID hell in India. The United States has announced today aid. I've been actually working with some leaders in the White House to help address a lot of concerns in North Carolina with many, many Indian American mom and dads and sisters and brothers stuck in India. Travel restriction has been closed. My wife's uncle, 92 years old, congestive heart failure, the patriarch of the family, has been diagnosed with COVID. He's in critical condition. We don't know what's going to happen, but he can't take the vaccine because he's had congestive heart failure. So this is affecting all of us in North Carolina. At home here, many people on edge with death around the corner, and people not able to go and see their loved ones because of the crematoriums are booked. So in Mumbai, you can't get a crematorium right now. And so they don't even know. They said you're just responsible for burying the bodies. It's just awful. So anyway, we're just trying to figure out how India got here, but what's going on in your world?
Things are going fairly well here. Like I said, definitely folks are trying to get the vaccinations. I just saw a commercial yesterday where Walgreens was making that big push to let folks know that they could get it there as well. So it was one of the commercials that was on regular TV. So I was watching the Oscars. I think that was when I saw that commercial come across and everything. So they're definitely trying to get more and more people vaccinated here and everything. And of course, it seems like it's moving along in a good pace and everything. But there's still a lot of folks that are not getting vaccinated or that are still waiting to get their vaccination. So it seems like we're moving in the right direction. But like what happened with India, I know that the people will be wondering whether that will be the case of the shoe dropping here as well, because sometimes if you study history, there have been other incidences similar to like it's the last time we were in a pandemic 100 years ago and something, and everything seemed like it was on the road to recovery. And then there was a second wave or a third wave. So I know that people are wondering about that. Even Rakesh, when he was here on Friday, mentioned the fact that that's something we might have to deal with. So hopefully the vaccinations will work, and hopefully everything will come out in the correct way, and we won't have to deal with that. But historically speaking, it is an issue.
Yeah,
I think you look at the paper. This is Australia's paper on Friday. I just happen to have it on my desk here, and you can see the main headline there: the Pfizer jabs now off limits for over 50s in Australia. So that's the courtesy of the Sydney Morning Herald. And look, I think that's an interesting scenario. We've had the AstraZeneca vaccine here. My mother actually just had the AstraZeneca vaccine, the first shot, a few weeks ago. But we've had some concerns about blood clotting. And so basically people under 50, well, people under 40, especially my age group, are not wanting to get it because of that. So it's now been, as part of our recommendations and our targets in Australia, they've switched across to the Pfizer vaccinations. But of course, that means that it's going to be slower to roll that out to older Australians. And so I haven't actually read the whole article, but basically what they're saying is they're going to continue to give the AstraZeneca vaccines to people over 50, and for people who are under 50, get the Pfizer ones. But that in turn, I think still scares a lot of people. And I think that's the worst thing, is if people are concerned about something, and those concerns are not afraid by health spokespeople properly, but by them not actually addressing the main concerns and assuring people that things are safe, it's all good and well for people in the media to say they're safe. But unless people are able to express what they're concerned about and then have those concerns addressed, what you end up is a big percentage of the population not wanting to get a vaccination. And that's, I think, going to be a tragedy, is the lives that will be lost that otherwise could have been saved.
That's a great well, thank you, Shakir. That actually brought up my next point, and I think that's a really, really legitimate concern. And we do continue to pray for India, and we're going to be talking about this during the course of the week. I might be bringing a United States congressperson on the show to talk about it, and then Swadesh Chatterjee may come back and talk about what he's doing around the country to mobilize the Indian community of the United States and senators and Congress leaders around the United States. But
is it going to be AOC? Because I better not be here for that.
But real quickly, so you brought up a very valid point. So when you look at the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, they pulled it off the shelf when 6 cases out of millions, right? So the chances of getting COVID-19 were actually much greater than if you were to get sick or have a blood clot from the J&J vaccine. But the end result is, what it's done is it's actually created more fear among the public of taking the vaccine. And so this actually hurts the efforts of getting to herd immunity, because now all of a sudden, so how are these decisions being made? And I think, and I'm going to throw this out here, I think it's an example of the government taking a decision and looking at it as minimizing the risk rather than looking at the greater good. Right. And so this is time and time we've seen this, where in 9/11, how many of us, it became impossible to travel for a few years because some of these things didn't even make sense. But your lines were longer and everything because you're doing that or dealing with this virus. So, it just seems to me that sometimes governments can make decisions so drastic that the end result is that it's actually hurting the very goal that we want. What do you think about that, Mark?
No, I definitely agree with you that I'm just hoping that everybody is doing it in a manner of trying to be at least balancing it, where you're trying to do it in an effective way, but also being very much thorough in your way of doing it as well, because that's definitely a balancing act that any government has to deal with and things of that nature. I haven't heard anything that has given me pause yet about the way that America is handling it and some of the other countries, and I've just been looking to see how they're handling it. But so far, it looks like we're handling it in the correct way. Still trying to roll out the vaccines. If there was an incident like what happened with Johnson & Johnson, then stopping it, doing some thorough investigation before rolling it back out again and everything. And it is being offered again now. So like I said, it does seem like at least the research is being done, and they're taking efforts to hear the concerns and to at least alleviate the concerns to some degree as well. So I'm hoping that that's what we'll continue to see, as opposed to like some sort of panic kind of situation, which can also happen if you're not given the correct answers.
Yeah, I think, Nick, we'll go back to Shaquille, but Nick, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the vaccine is so far proven to be effective. I took the Pfizer 1 and Pfizer 2, so I believe I'm free to move around the country. I have my little card, and I'm moving around the country. I'm leaving in a couple days to go to Florida and spend a week in the sun and fun. Then I'm going to New York, and then I'm going to Italy, hopefully in August, and hopefully I'll be able to get in. But I think it will be, pretty much alleviated in Italy. Then I go to Switzerland. Then I go to Athens, Paris. I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling. But that's because I took the vaccine. I think the people that do not take the vaccine are delusional, that they believe things that are just, the earth is flat and the vaccines don't work, and they didn't grow up in a medical household, so they didn't even understand that the vaccines, the smallpox vaccine, the polio vaccine, the measles, mumps, chickenpox vaccines, a lot of these vaccines existed in the 60s and 70s that were necessary unless you wanted to die of smallpox or unless you wanted to be crippled by polio. You took the vaccine. I mean, it was real simple. A lot of the schools I went to, you had to take the vaccine or did not get admitted. And under the U.S. law, they can require you to take a vaccine. It's a 1906 case, believe it or not, a Massachusetts case that went to the Supreme Court, that the government and private institutions have the right to say you take the vaccine or they can, exclude you from school. And I think that's the correct thing to do. Now, for the anti-vaxxers out there, it's fine if you live in a house in the middle of Nebraska and you don't ever see anybody, then don't take the vaccine. Who cares? But if you live in a city, if you associate with people other than yourself, then the thing is, it's almost mandatory that you take a vaccine, or you're actually hurting society and you're hurting yourself. So I think that's my take on the anti-vaxxers that are out there. I'm not really a big fan of the anti-vaxxers, to be honest with you.
Before we move on, what are your thoughts about how governments can be more transparent and open about this? Then,
Well, can I? Yeah, let me just address a couple of things. Firstly, with what you said there, Nick, should people be forced to or excluded from society otherwise? That goes against the grain for me. I don't like the idea that anybody's forced to do anything by government. On the other hand, there is that argument to be made, not just in relation to the COVID vaccine, but with other vaccines. What happens to that kid who can't, because they've got other medical conditions, who can't be vaccinated? If everybody else at school is vaccinated, then that kid is at significantly reduced risk. So there are those sorts of arguments. But in relation to people being delusional, I'm by no means an anti-vaxxer. I get the flu vax, and I will certainly get the Pfizer vax when it comes out. But I was sort of of the opinion sitting here in Australia that, I'm going to see how it goes elsewhere. I will get it, but I'm just going to see, how it happens in the United States. How does it go in the UK? How does it go across Europe? We're pretty lucky here in Australia. We don't really have a big COVID problem. So, we've got some luxury in relation to that. I think that people have got some legitimate concerns about vaccinations. Now, there was a report that was done that came out from a prominent doctor who linked vaccines to autism. That report has been debunked many times. And the truth of the matter is, in the last 20 years or 25 years, there hasn't really been any evidence that has linked vaccinations to the causes of autism and other types of things like that. But people are still going to be scared because that's not as well known. People tend to hear the headlines, but they never hear the proof that proves something wrong that happened 20 years ago. People have got legitimate concerns about medicines in general, especially for those people who are old enough to have experienced the thalidomide crisis. And people attribute, hey, look how well the FDA did by stopping thalidomide from coming into the United States. But the problem is that when people have these sorts of concerns, just calling them delusional doesn't address the concern. Just saying, well, you must believe the earth is flat, doesn't address what can actually be well-founded and well-meaning concerns by very intelligent people. So, I just think that, the doctors and the health departments really do need to come out and make sure that people understand it, and also acknowledge that, look, we didn't really know what this virus was. Dr. Fauci at one point in the early days actually said that wearing a mask, there was no real proof that would work. Don't bother wearing a mask. Then he said that you should wear a mask. So when you have conflicting information, I think it's better for the medical people to just say, look, we don't know. We're going to give the information as we know it. And just understand that people are not going to be sure either, and they want to have more ability to control their own lives, and they don't want to just have an injection that can't be reversed. Once it's in your body, you can't get rid of it. So, I think that people have a right to question these things. And the main thing is that I don't think this had anything to do with medicine, really. The vaccination and the whole handling of the coronavirus all over the world became a political issue. And it became a hard political issue between most countries have got two political parties, including your own, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it just became one-upmanship from one political party to another. And in my mind, that's the greatest shame of it, because the government and its leaders are supposed to be there to help the people, and instead they turn it into a political thing.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but if you go back all the way to 1906, there was a Supreme Court decision called Jacobson versus Massachusetts. Now, in Jacobson versus Massachusetts, a U.S. Supreme Court case, they gave the city of Cambridge the right to fine people that did not take the smallpox vaccine. And it was a 7-2 decision, so there's always some people that object, that decision. It'll be very interesting to see, as we're moving forward in this world of vaccination, whether or not schools can mandate people to take vaccines or not. I believe they can. In other words, the school I went to, like it or not, it was a parochial school. If you took the vaccine, you get to go to school. If you don't have to go to school. You go find another school.
Interesting how when we talk about the Second Amendment, you have no problems with trying to get rid of the Second Amendment.
Sure.
When I bring up other things like Whitney versus California in defense of why we have freedom of speech, you have no problems with saying how terrible the Supreme Court is and how their decisions are wrong when it comes to those ones that don't support the Democrats' positions today.
Right.
But when it comes to this, the Supreme Court's got it right.
The Supreme Court does have it right. And the thing is, and since you believe since you believe in individual liberties and freedom, then you believe that the school system has also the freedom to say who gets admitted and who doesn't get admitted, which they do. And if you don't take the vaccine, they have the right to say, because of their freedom, that you don't get admitted to school, and go find your own school, go get homeschooled, go get a charter school. I think a person who's a libertarian like you are, you would back that decision on Jacobson. You say, of course, the city has the right to fine you, or go find another city.
No, firstly, I think that as a general rule, I can't talk about this particular law because I don't know the case very well. But what I will say is, if that is what they say is private enterprise, fine. But if it's a public institution that says you can't have access to this thing unless you do this other thing, okay, then your solution will go find another school. Absolutely. Those parents should receive the money that the public would otherwise have spent to send this child to a very expensive and inefficient government-run educational facility that's going to waste most of that money anyway. Give that money to the parents and let them spend it on their own tutors, fine. But if that's not available, I don't think it's right that you require that family to pay taxes and then exclude them from services that those taxes are supposed to pay for.
I don't have a problem with that. In other words, having them spend the money on a charter school elsewhere that wants to bring in a bunch of people that don't care about being vaccinated. I don't have a problem with that because, like I said, I'm a big believer in charter schools. But a school certainly has the right, private or public, to deny access to somebody who is not willing to conform. And I don't care if it's even a city has the right to do it. And that was actually the Jacobson versus Massachusetts. The city of Cambridge said, and this is a government institution, you either take the vaccine or you get fined, or else just get the heck out of my city. Go find another city. Go live in the middle of Nebraska. You don't have a right to live.
Well, I think individual schools, if I can just jump in right now, I think individual parents are doing that right now, because I know for a fact that my brother and the entire family, meaning that my two nephews, are fully vaccinated. And as of right now, I don't think that Malik is planning to let the boys go to school, because he's not sure that the other parents have gotten vaccinated as well. So he definitely doesn't want to put them, at a further risk if it's going to be that situation. So definitely, I think that right now he's opting out.
I would certainly agree. If the public school systems here deem, and rightfully so, that if your kid isn't vaccinated, you don't produce the vaccination cards, then they have the right to exclude you. And that's the U.S. Supreme Court decision, which I fully back, because the thing is, it is the right decision, 7-2 by the U.S. Supreme Court. And again, I'm not going to say they can't get education elsewhere. Somebody wants to create a charter school of people that believe in flat earths and believe in that Bill Gates, and they believe in they don't believe in vaccines. They believe that familified's going to come over.
I know that Sasha always likes to use this, and this was the response, the demeaning response that was given to people who had concerns about the way the election was run in last year, was that, oh, well, they all must just believe in flat Earth. I mean, let's not be so dismissive of people, right? I've never done that to people on the political left.
I'm not dismissive. There are people that believe in that.
It's because to take, okay, you have some concerns about the vaccination. There's media reports about blood clots. There's media reports about this. There's media reports about that. So therefore, your concerns are the equivalent of believing that the Earth is flat. That is just, they're not the same things. These are not sort of, some hard sort of conspiracy nuts. These are people that have legitimate concerns. The only way that we're ever going to have a society that is unified is when we start to have some respect for each other. And that starts with actually trying to understand where people are coming from and what the concerns are. As I said at the beginning of this, I don't believe that the vaccinations show an unreasonable risk to people, and I think that people should get it. But that doesn't mean I'm going to lecture people. I'd prefer to find out why they don't want to get them, what their concerns are. And I just want to say as well, in relation to what you said there with the Supreme Court decision, yes, the correct role of government is to protect people. It's to protect people from harm from other people. And, when there is a national security issue or when there is a health issue, requiring someone to be vaccinated in order to protect the health of other people is something that you could argue is the role of the government, or is the role of health departments. So whilst fundamentally I have some concerns, my understanding of the Supreme Court judgment, Jacobson versus Massachusetts, was exactly that, was that the Supreme Court ruled, well, the greater good here overcomes your individual liberty, and liberty is not absolute. So, this is not the same thing. These are different things. And even if you were able to pass a law in the United States that said that everybody needed to be vaccinated, to just pass that law and then make a mockery of the people who have concerns about that is not going to unify people. It's going to leave a lot of people feeling alienated. And I just don't think that we should do that. That's something that we should try and get away from, because when you do that with health, you also do that with education. You also do that with trans people and the LGBTQ community that would prefer to use different pronouns and all these different things. We live in a very fast-moving world. A lot of things are changing. And I think if we can just take the time to understand each other, it'd be a much better set of circumstances. Otherwise, you just have everyone at each other's throats all the time.
Well, it's because I'm not their psychologist and I'm not their mother. So the thing is, I don't have to sit there and say, well, let's deal with all your internal issues. I'm not going to do that.
But you're pretty happy for paternalistic government to do away with with rights. So basically, as long as you agree with it, it's okay, right?
That's correct.
But if other people don't agree with it, they are unintelligent monsters, and they believe in flat Earth, and they don't deserve any rights, and they should be treated.
You're absolutely right, Shaquille. You hit the nail on the head.
Didn't we have
scum of the earth, and they need to know it. That's it.
Didn't we have
what Hillary called deplorable?
What happened to the fan that we had before that called you a smug prick? Can we get him watching us again?
Yeah, well, at least he was right. I'm not going to deny it. Okay, the thing is, I am not going to deny it. When I was playing chess, I didn't say, boy, you really shouldn't move that piece that way. I just said that was a stupid move. Okay, because it was a stupid move. Stupid moves lose. And they lost because they made.
And when you were a chess
coach, nice to them. Nice about.
I don't know if you were ever a chess coach, but if you ever were, is that how you spoke to your students?
Absolutely. Depending on the student, absolutely. They needed to know that in a way that they got that was dumb. Okay, and so then they wouldn't do it again because
he was the Bobby Knight of chess coaches.
So I'm drinking.
So you were the Bobby Knight of chess coach.
I was the Bobby Knight of chess coach. If they lost the game, I threw the chair at them.
Exactly.
Or crashed all the pieces into their face. You have to do what it takes to win. Well, if you want to win coronavirus, you got to actually vaccinate people. You can't just sit there going, well, let's go take a look. Let's spend an hour with this.
To be fair, I know how much you lawyers love to think that you know everything, but you're not actually a medical person, are you? I say JD, not MD after your name there, Nick. So when you say that you need to do these things to win the war, Why are you so trusting of government?
Because of
lawyers like you. Since when did you start trusting lawyers?
Because the thing is, remember, the lawyers are the ones that sit on the Supreme Court that makes the decision. Remember, the medical doctors, they make the drugs. I don't make the drugs. I make the decisions.
So
okay?
I have
I don't see any problem. That's where you have JD.
About the Supreme Court and the Democrats' ridiculous plan to stack the court. If we want diversity, and when we mean diversity, we mean
it's not a ridiculous plan to stack the court.
No. If we want diversity, and by diversity we mean only Democrats on there, or only Democrat appointees on there. Why don't they have any former defense lawyers on there? Why are they all former prosecutors? Do we think that perhaps we should have some defense representation to protect the people?
No, defense lawyers are weak. Everybody know that. Prosecuting attorneys are attorneys that get things done. Defense people are weak. So that's usually prosecuting attorneys.
So the
thing is, that's reasonable prosecuting. Remember, if you're a plaintiff, you have to get something done. If you're a defendant, your job is to do nothing, because that gets something done for your client.
Nick and Steve, just a question really quickly. I thought that the late Ruth Ginsburg, and I thought that there was at least a couple of other ones that were defense attorneys that were on the Supreme Court, because I thought the late Ruth Ginsburg.
Yeah, but they were never the Chief Justice, that's for sure. But the thing is, let's go further to this, stack the court. Okay, and let's go look at the history of this, Shaquille. Realize that Merrick Garland, who was nominated, should have been on the court. And then your friend Mitch McConnell, a Republican, goes, well, we shouldn't do it during election year. And then in a disingenuous twist, he goes, oh, the Trump nominee, who was it, Amy Coney Barrett? Because it was a Trump nominee, she gets to sit on the court. Okay, that was totally disingenuous. You just got to get that, all right? The ultimate reply is just like a chess game. Your next reply, stack the bloody court. I'm all favor of it. And you give the reasons. That's the reason. They stacked it. Now you get to stack it. Now people may not like it, but as a lot of my actuaries say, this is the calculus. You don't like the calculation? Too bad.
No, because the bit that's missing from that calculation is the people of America. People who are not motivated by politics, who may not even pay much attention to what's happening politically unless it's in their faces, whose lives and freedoms are being eroded because of the political gamemanship of some lawyers in Washington, D.C.
Wait. It was already Shaquille was already gamed by the Republican Party. What are you talking about?
Well, no, because them not confirming Merrick is not the same.
Yeah, it is the same.
When they have the ability and the control of the Senate in order to confirm.
Well, now the Democrats do. The Democrats need to. The
Democrats are not trying to fill a vacant seat. What they're trying to do is to add another 4 seats and fill them full of their nominees
for a good reason. It's because the Republicans politicize the court.
It's in what you think's a good reason because you're now a Democrat. So, based on the current polls, the Republicans believe that they will, or the polls show that the Republicans are likely to take back the House and the Senate. Now, that may or may not be true. It's a lot, that people say it's only 2022, but that's a long time away in the world of politics. So, but that's what the polls currently show. Does anybody in America want to see that every time a new party has control of the House and Senate, they end up with more and more judges on the Supreme Court?
It could be. I mean, that's just life. And here's what I would do. I would not like. Listen, here's what I would do, Shaquille.
Answer my question, Council. Would you like to see a situation where every time there's a change of government, every time the government changes to a new party,
there's a potential, yes, of course.
Okay, so basically you would like to get away, you would like to get rid of one of the essential checks and balances in your country. The judicial branch is not supposed to be a political branch. It is supposed to be another part of government, another branch of government that acts as a check and balance in the other branch.
Look, they made it. It's already politicized. So now you deal with it. How I would do it.
It's already politicized.
It already is politicized. Mitch McConnell.
It's not. You wouldn't say it's politicized. I would say it's politicized because of the two. Because of Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett. Well, let me just ask you: have they as yet made a ruling that was so egregious to the Democrats? They haven't yet. So you can't even point to there being bias. Even in Roe versus Wade, I might remind you guys, in Roe versus Wade, it was a conservative appointee that voted Roe versus Wade in.
Yeah.
So I mean, this idea that these justices are more motivated by politics than justice is not proven yet. And until it is, I think it's absolutely atrocious to then try to
just for your edification, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has 30 justices on it as we sit today. Number one. Number two, not only should you expand the court, you should then print off copies of Machiavelli's The Prince and hand it to all the Republicans and say the court is stacked. Here, read The Prince. Have a good day.
I've got a better idea.
Might makes right, baby.
Why don't you print off a copy of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and give it to every school child in your country?
That wouldn't be a bad idea too. As soon as we can teach them how.
That would be a great idea. We need to teach. We definitely need to teach civics in the school system. And I've actually got a friend of mine, in where is Calvin at now? I think he's in Atlanta, but he's been talking about that for a while, and I may be getting him to come on one of our shows because he's definitely been talking about the need to have civics taught in our school system, because a lot of folks that are, I would say, under 30 have no idea of what's in the Bill of Rights or anything of that nature. So definitely civics should be definitely taught. It even comes back to like respecting the law and things of that nature. One of the things I was going to ask Shaquille, and it's actually kind of a switch in directions, because I know that he's oftentimes talking about cancel culture and also sometimes talks about the impact of Hollywood on a lot of these discussions. As Steve mentioned earlier today, we did have the Oscars yesterday, and yes, there were several comments that were made around everything from race relations to refusing hate. And actually, even though I'm not the biggest Tyler Perry fan, and there's different reasons for that and everything, I did like his speech where he asked everybody to refuse hate and to meet him in the middle, and definitely to refuse hate against people of a certain color, a certain ethnicity, the LGBT community, as well as police officers. And he did state police officers in his thing about refusing hate. And then Regina King made a comment about the Derek Chauvin verdict after they were showing a short that actually deals with a police officer killing a black man, that being two distant strangers. And then, of course, Angela Bassett acknowledging lives lost with the coronavirus, as well as to the violence of inequality, injustice, hatred, racism, and poverty. So I guess my question to all of y'all is that okay in your mind for the Hollywood, I guess the Hollywood elite is what some people would call them, to make these kind of statements, or were they stepping outside of their boundaries?
Oh, Hollywood.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Governor McCrory, first of all, I apologize, folks. I've been, had a busy morning this morning, lots of stuff going on. But thank you for the engagement on the courts. First of all, I don't know. I haven't really thought about the packing of the courts, but I'm going to have an answer for you by the week on that. But in my opinion, Governor McCrory, former governor, is running for the U.S. Senate, and this I think goes to what he calls the cancel culture, right? And so I don't know. I don't know. I am irritated about Chadwick Boseman not getting the Oscar. I just don't know, what your all's thoughts are about. Is there a line that needs to be drawn, and that actors and Hollywood stars don't get into politics, just like companies don't get into politics when we pass voting rights laws, right? Or is that I think everybody in this country has a right to express their opinion. I just
okay. I'll express my opinion.
Yeah,
Chicago 7 should have won the Oscars. I watched Chicago 7. I watched One Night in Miami, and I watched Nomad Land, or whatever they called it. Nowhere Land was not good. It was like a low-rated documentary about poor people in America. And the thing is, it was kind of a depressing waste of time. The best movie, Chicago 7, by far, not even close. Did it win the Oscar? No, because it didn't have the inside track to the Hollywood elite. That's the only reason, Mark. Chicago 7 is the one you want to watch. Nowhere Land, I wouldn't even, not definitely even in the top 3, maybe not in the top 5, but it doesn't matter because Hollywood, votes for Hollywood elite. But if you want to see a good movie, watch the Chicago 7. If you want to be depressed and watch a poor form of a documentary, watch Nomadland.
Or CNN.
Or CNN, yeah, that's depressing too.
Yeah, that CNN is very depressing. But I actually thought that Ma Rainey's Black Bottom should have won as well. But there was some notable good news in the as there always is, because there were breakthroughs, and I think that this is the first time that a Muslim was recognized with the Best Actor nomination, that being Riz Ahmed, and then it was also the first Asian American actor to be nominated in the category, which was Stephen Yeun. And even though people may not like Nomadland, it did give some credence to the first woman of color winning a directorial award as well, because it was directed by Chloe Zhao.
I actually don't think it did, personally. I didn't watch the Oscars. I watched the highlights because that's about as much of the nonsense that they spew out that I can handle. But you know what Nick just said. Okay, Chicago 7 was better than the Nomadland. I don't know, but he thinks that was more deserving. But you know what? It's got nothing to do with your abilities. It's got nothing to do with what you brought in the box office. It's got nothing to do with whether or not people enjoyed your film. It's got to do with your skin color. And the thing is that we're just openly admitting that now. So everyday people no longer pay any attention to these awards because they don't matter. These are not, these are not like awards where you go, well, this movie, I didn't go and see it, but it's got all these awards. I better go and watch it. Now it's, well, they've got all these awards. They've hit some diversity quota. Okay, somebody who's a person of color was in it. So somebody who was an Asian American was in it. Was it any good? I've no idea. But what a step forward for this person of color that they got the award because they're a person of color. I mean, to me, like, if I was given if there was such a thing as the hedge fund manager of the year award or something, and I was given it because I'm not white, I would refuse to take it. I really would. Like, it is just so condescending. Like, either give it to me because I've done a really good job, or I haven't. But don't give it to me because of the color of my skin. Thank you very much. Okay, and especially if we're going to talk about Hollywood, right? I don't get offended by white people as people always love. Oh, white people as little whitey's the problem. But could there be anything more condescending than the Hollywood foreign press, who is all white men, all old white men, and all the studio executives who are all white, and their white wives, giving out these token awards to token black people without doing anything, or token people of color without doing anything to address the issues that hold them back, and just going, well, look, we gave that person an award. Look how good we are. Look how great we are. And in the meantime, you've got violent crime out of control in the big cities in the United States. You've got kids flunking out of high school in the United States. You've got a huge percentage of people that are struggling and are in poverty. There's food insecurity. Nobody's doing anything about that. But look, we gave somebody an award. Look how nice we are. That is the height of just condescending, demeaning treatment. I'm not gonna support that. That's why I've mostly tuned in Hollywood.
I'm gonna have to jump off a little early today, so I want to do my closeout quicker. But if it's okay, I'm going to have Mark Lee and Nick Pavadiva close out the show today. Is that okay, folks?
Why would we object? Why would we object, Steve, when we have no vote?
When you say, folks, I'm the only person who's not those two. So yeah, that's fine.
Well, a couple of things before I chime out, and I'll be out of pocket tomorrow, but I'll be back on Wednesday. So I think that hopefully Mark Lee or Nick can run the show tomorrow. But I just wanted to say, first of all, these have been great discussions. So we pray for India. A couple of things I want the group to talk about is President Biden is addressing the Congress on Wednesday, and he's going to be talking about also a plan on taxing capital gains on the millionaires in America, maxing out their corporate tax rates at 38%. And then also he's going to be talking about childcare and things like that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see now as we get to this, COVID pandemic, getting to a relative new normal as people are getting out of America, what President Biden is going to do.
38%?
Yeah, 38. No, 38% for those making over millions of dollars, I think, is what he's saying for the millionaires in America. I have to, but there is going to be efforts to increase the tax significantly. And we're going to talk about what I'd like to do this week is to take some aspects of Biden's plan. I did my monologue last week. He's approaching 100 days. And in the 100 days, what are the things that he's achieved? What are the clouds on the horizon? And we can talk about what the next 100 days may be like, which is interesting. 100 days goes really fast. I think as I close out, I think what this president clearly does not have is unity. So, the partisan divide is greater than ever. He has support of only 30% of white working class Americans. He does have about 90% of support of his party, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And President Trump has been relatively quiet lately. We haven't really heard him a lot.
Well, he was cancelled, so how could you hear from him? He's been cancelled. He's got no Twitter account. He's got no Facebook. He's cancelled.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't hear from him.
Yeah, I know. But I'm gonna.
Now he still has Parlor.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being with World Edition. The good news is I'm going to continue to host the show, but from time to time, we are getting it now out to travel and meet people in person. Believe it or not, today was my first morning meeting where I went to IHOP in Raleigh and actually met someone to actually have an in-person meeting. And so these Zooms might be going down, and we're going to be driving the car a little bit more. So it's a little hard to get used to. This I've actually enjoyed sitting in this chair.
I would say to all Americans, please get out and drive your car as much as you can. Enjoy it while you can, because remember, you have to in the next 8-9 years, you're going to halve your emissions. So cars will be a thing of the past. And so if you're a young person, you need to get out there and drive now so you can tell your grandkids what it was like to enjoy them.
Okay, so
it's called change.
There's 3 minutes left, so this is Steve Rao signing off today, but I leave you in the good hands of Nick Politivo and Mark Lee to close it out with just some engaging debate, fire it up, and I will see you possibly tomorrow morning, but I might be a few minutes late. Thank you so much. God bless each of you, and be safe, world. And for anyone in India, we pray for you. And if you're living in the U.S. or anywhere in the world and you have a loved one in India, we pray for you, and we pray that India gets through this COVID nightmare that they're under. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, we've only got a few minutes to go and everything, but it's going to be real interesting, Shaquille. And you'll have to come back tomorrow and tell us, maybe after you do some research and I do some as well, because I'm hearing that there's supposed to be a major tax credit on the rich in order to level the playing field. And I know that that's something that you're not a big fan of, and that's something that is definitely on the plate and get ready to happen.
No, hang on a second. It's not that I'm not a fan of it at all. I'm just going to sit here and drink. My health nut friends have put me onto flavored kombucha, which tastes absolutely disgusting, but it's supposed to be good for you, so I'm trying to drink it. Apparently,
as long as it's good for you. Yeah, and I'm going to be going.
Can I say, Mark, I don't have a problem with, and I've said this before, I don't have a problem with rich people paying tax. I don't have a problem with them even paying more proportionally than poor people do. Right? I don't have a problem with that, and I've never said that I do. What I have a problem with is having people who are in similar financial positions having to pay dramatically more tax than the other person. So you've got one person who's worth $1 billion and another person who's worth $1 billion, and one of them has to pay $200 million in taxes, and the other person pays $200,000 in taxes. And when the person who's paying $200 million in taxes says that's not right, we need to change the tax code, they go, shut up and pay your fair share. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. But what I have even more of a problem with is when government people are too lazy to actually explain things like the Laffer curve and actually explain where and how to tax in the most effective way to give the most amount of benefit to the poor. How do you do that? And that's never explained, and people never make those sorts of decisions. So what they do is they just lazy and they say, let's increase the headline rates of tax, without caring at all whether or not that's actually going to make a difference. It's about winning the next election and never about actually doing what's right for the people. That's what I have a problem with. And I'll say that I personally am prepared to pay taxes to countries I live in, okay, but I want it to be fair and reasonable and want my tax dollars spent properly.
Nick, I know we've got to get ready to get out of here.
So Economics Monday.
Yeah, no, we got to go to Economics Monday. So I'm going to let you get out of here. The two things I was going to say that are on a lighthearted note, and we definitely had some great conversation, is you were talking about that bad drink that you had. I learned about a very bad pretzel. They tell me that it's good, but I was on a friend's Zoom call, and they swore up and down on the loveliness of something called the cauliflower pretzel. I think that sounds disgusting. It sounds totally disgusting. Mixing a cauliflower and a pretzel. And on the last note, I will say that it was great seeing Glenn Close in the Oscars doing the butt. So that was actually a funny moment. And if you did not see that, you need to see that and watch that clip, because they were having a whole like sort of contest of some sort as part of the way that they were trying to keep the Oscars engaging. And at one point, they definitely Questlove was doing the music, and they had different people doing MCing, but they did get Glenn Close to actually do the butt. And if you know that song, that's a hilarious dance in of itself. And then Glenn Close doing it made it even more funnier.
I will look it up on YouTube.
Please do. I guess that we just get ready to bounce on out of here, since I think Nick just abandoned us and he's got the control. So I guess if we just bounce.
I'll tell him, because I've got to go to Economics Monday. So I'll tell him, to our audience, excuse this brief delay. Nick will be back.
Yep. Cool. So we're just waiting for Nick to get back and get us on off the air here and everything. So definitely that's kind of what's going on here. And hopefully he's going to do that very shortly, because I know he's got Economics Monday going on, but definitely an engaging conversation. And I know a lot of folks are looking forward to more of an engaging conversation tomorrow as well. So definitely Steve will be here. I'll be here. Definitely, I'm imagining Nick will be here. And our prayers do go out to Ankit and his family. So we're hoping that he will be getting better, and that he will be on the road to recovery, so that he can continue doing the outstanding work he is doing here on the network. But our prayers are out to his family, because we understand that not just Ankit, but several members of his family of various ages are sick with COVID. So our prayers go out to him, and we will be praying for his rapid recovery. So I'm just waiting for Nick to come on in here and get us on out of here. So he may be going to do that at a later time, or I might just hit the end button right here, since if I leave the studio, they may come back and just do the segue, since I do not have the segue material over here. So we're going to wait and see what goes on in that regards. But we will wait and see what folks' thoughts are, and definitely be waiting for Nick to come back in here and give us the theme music outro, because that's what I'm waiting for, is that lovely theme music outro and all of that as well. So definitely, if I don't see it coming up in a matter of a few minutes, I will just assume that they've got Economics Monday going on, and we will just have them do that at a later time. So they may have to outro it at a later time. But it's been fun having y'all here and enjoying the conversation with this particular show of World Edition. So I'm going to get on out of here, and I hope that everybody has a safe and wonderful day. It's a little bit on the cool side here in North Carolina, but it is definitely sunny, and that beats the rain that we had a couple of days ago. So definitely, when I stepped out earlier, it was definitely on the cool side, and I might need to get some breath of fresh air and see what it's like in that regards in the very near future and everything, maybe around lunchtime, since it's already 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. But definitely hope everybody has a great day, and I'll be back later on this evening with the radio show with Mark Lee, as well as, of course, with Mullins Music and Memories. And then, of course, I've got my regular show that I do, that's the audio one, outside of this family of great programming on IBMTV. And that is, of course, Straight Talk with Dean and Mark, and that'll be at 7 o'clock, because I do a lot of this podcasting work on Monday afternoons in general. So looking forward to hopefully having some amazing guests on at 2 o'clock and having some engaging conversation for sure. So that being said, I'm going to just click the Leave Studio, and hopefully they'll come in here and give us an outro of some sort or another very shortly.